What if everything you've been taught about success is wrong? What if the very thing you're doing to get ahead, telling everyone your plans, is actually holding you back? Stick around, because what you're about to hear might change everything. Think about the last time you had a big goal. Maybe it was starting a business, losing weight, or finally saving up for something important. Now think about this. How many people did you tell? If it was more than a handful, you might have already made your first mistake. See, there's a hidden rule among those who've achieved real success, and it goes against everything we've been conditioned to believe. Today, we're breaking it down. Why do so many dreams die before they even get started? It's not lack of effort or even luck. It's something far simpler. We talk too much. Every time you announce your plans, you trick your brain into feeling like you've already accomplished them. The hunger fades. The urgency disappears. And worse, you invite doubt, negativity, and even sabotage from people who don't truly want to see you win. Silence builds momentum. There's a force in silence that most people never tap into. They're too busy announcing their plans, too eager for validation, too quick to seek approval before the work is even done. But the ones who truly succeed, the ones who build empires, master skills, and create lasting change, they understand something fundamental. Real momentum starts in silence. Think about it. When you tell someone your goal, what happens? You get a reaction. Maybe they're impressed. Maybe they cheer you on. Maybe they doubt you. But here's the problem. You've just outsourced your motivation. You've given away the energy that should have been yours alone. Now, instead of proving it to yourself, you're waiting for others to acknowledge it. And that's where most dreams die, in the gap between talk and action. True progress happens in the quiet, when no one's watching, when no one's praising you, when it's just you and the work. That's where discipline is born. That's where real skill is built. Because when there's no audience, there's no performance, just raw, unfiltered effort. History's greatest achievers didn't broadcast their plans. They didn't need applause to keep going. They didn't seek permission or approval. They simply worked in silence until their results spoke for them. That's the difference between those who talk and those who do. So the next time you feel the urge to share your plans, ask yourself, am I doing this for me or for them? If the answer isn't clear, stay silent. Keep working. Let the doubters wonder how you did it. Let the skeptics question your sudden success, because the moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you start winning. Avoid the approval trap. There's a dangerous illusion that tricks most people. The idea that telling others about your goals will somehow make them more real. That if enough people know, you'll be forced to follow through. But here's the truth. Seeking approval before achievement is a trap. Every time you share your plans prematurely, you get a small rush, a fleeting sense of accomplishment. It feels like progress, but it's not. It's just your brain rewarding you for something you haven't done yet. And that's the problem. That false satisfaction drains your hunger. It makes you feel like you've already succeeded when, in reality, you haven't even started. The most driven people don't need outside validation. They don't need cheers or encouragement to stay motivated. Their fire comes from within. They know that real confidence isn't built on praise. It's built on proof, on what you've actually done, not what you've said you'll do. Think about the last time someone doubted you. Did it push you forward or hold you back? Now imagine if you hadn't told them in the first place. Imagine if you just worked, quietly, relentlessly, until the results were undeniable. That's the power of silence. The world is full of talkers, full of people who love the idea of success, but hate the work it requires. Don't be one of them. Stay quiet. Stay focused. Let your actions be the only announcement you ever make. Because when you do, something interesting happens. People stop questioning you. They start watching you. And by then, it's already too late for them to doubt. You've already won. Protect your energy. There is a sacredness to your dreams that most people will never understand. The moment you share them with the wrong person, you invite invisible thieves, doubt, negativity, and misplaced advice to steal what should have been yours alone. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not everyone has earned the right to speak into your vision. And the moment you forget that, you give away pieces of your future without even realizing it. Think of your energy as a finite resource, like gold. Would you hand out gold to every stranger who asks for it? Of course not. Yet people do this every day with their dreams. They expose their deepest ambitions to anyone who will listen, only to watch their motivation fade as others project their own fears onto them. A dismissive comment here, a skeptical question there, Each one chips away at your resolve until what once burned brightly inside you is reduced to embers. The strongest minds operate differently. They understand that silence is a shield, that not every thought needs to be spoken, not every plan needs an audience. They move in stillness, guarding their focus like a hidden treasure, because they know the world is full of people who gave up on their own dreams, and those same people will unconsciously try to convince you to abandon yours. This isn't about being secretive, it's about being selective, about recognizing that energy flows where attention goes. The more you entertain distractions, the more power you lose. But when you refuse to let outside voices dictate your direction, something remarkable happens. Your confidence grows in the quiet. Your certainty becomes unshakable. And when you finally reveal what you've built, it won't be for approval. It will be a statement. So ask yourself, who has earned the right to speak into your life? If the answer isn't immediate, stay silent. Keep working. Let your progress be the only thing that speaks for you. Let results speak for you. There is a moment that separates those who are heard from those who are remembered. The moment when action replaces words. Most people spend their lives explaining what they will do, what they could do, what they plan to do. But the ones who leave a mark on the world, they don't explain, they don't announce. They simply arrive with the finished product, the undeniable proof, the result that cannot be argued with. Think of the last time someone surprised you with their success. Maybe it was an old friend who quietly built a business while others were still talking about ideas. Maybe it was someone who transformed their health while everyone else made excuses. What was your reaction? Likely it was respect, not because they told you what they were doing, but because they showed you. That is the power of letting your work speak for itself. Words are cheap. Promises are meaningless without proof. And the more you talk about what you're going to do, the less likely you are to actually do it. Why? Because declarations drain discipline. Every time you tell someone your plans, you satisfy a psychological need for recognition, and in doing so, you steal fuel from your own ambition. The greatest achievers in history understood this. They didn't waste time convincing skeptics. They didn't seek validation before the work was done. They focused on one thing, becoming so undeniable that no explanation was needed. Because when you operate this way, something shifts. People stop questioning you. They start watching you. And by the time they realize what you've done, it's too late for doubt. You've already won. So the next time you feel the urge to announce your plans, ask yourself, would this energy be better spent in action? If the answer is yes, stay silent. Keep building. Let your results be the only voice that matters. The power of secrecy. There is an ancient strategy that all true masters of achievement understand. One that separates the legends from the forgotten. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is the deliberate, calculated use of silence. History's greatest builders, thinkers, and conquerors all shared one habit. They moved in shadows until the moment was right. They understood that surprise is not just an advantage. It is a weapon. When you broadcast your plans too soon, you give away your power. You arm your competition with knowledge. You invite resistance before you're ready to face it. But when you move in silence, you control the narrative. You dictate the timing. You force the world to react to you, not the other way around. This is how empires are built. This is how underdogs become unstoppable. Think of the most pivotal moments in history. The revolutions no one saw coming. The innovations that changed everything overnight. None of them were announced in advance. None of them were debated in public before they were ready. They were nurtured in secrecy, perfected in private, and unleashed only when success was inevitable. That is the difference between those who change things and those who merely talk about changing them. This is not about deception. It is about discipline, about understanding that true strength grows in the dark, away from prying eyes and unsolicited opinions. Every time you resist the urge to reveal your hand too soon, you sharpen your edge. You become unpredictable. You transform from someone who follows the rules into someone who rewrites them. So ask yourself, does the world need to know what you're doing right now? If the answer is no, embrace the silence. Let them wonder. And when you finally reveal what you've built, let their shock be your reward. Eliminate escape routes. There is a brutal truth behind every unrealized dream. Most people fail because they leave themselves a way out. They tell others their plans so they can be comforted if they quit. They make excuses in advance so the fall won't hurt as much. But here is the iron law of achievement. The more room you give yourself to retreat, the weaker you become. when no one knows what you're doing. There is no one to console you if you fail, no one to rationalize your surrender. It is just you and the mirror, and that reflection does not lie. That is where real growth happens, in that pressure, in that discomfort, in that terrifying clarity of knowing there are no excuses left. This is why the most relentless achievers operate in silence. They don't announce their diets before they lose weight. They don't promise businesses before they've made a sale. They burn the bridges before they cross them, because they understand the fundamental truth. People rise to the level of their accountability when there is no audience to perform for, no one to disappoint but yourself. You either find a way, or you cease to exist as the person you hope to become. Think of the last time you truly surprised yourself with what you could do. Chances are, it happened when you had no choice, when failure wasn't an option, when the only voice in your ear was your own, demanding more. That is not coincidence. That is human nature. We are at our best when the exits are sealed. So the next time you set a goal, ask yourself, have I left myself a way out? If the answer is yes, erase it. Let the fear of looking yourself in the eye with nothing to show for your time become your fuel, because when you do, something shifts. The excuses die, the distractions fade, and what's left is the raw, unfiltered version of you, the one capable of far more than you ever announced. Outwork the doubt. There is an invisible advantage hidden in being underestimated, one that the most successful people have learned to harness. When others don't see you coming, when they dismiss you as unimportant or incapable, they gift you something priceless, the element of surprise. But this advantage only works if you do one thing: use their doubt as fuel while staying completely silent. Think of every great rise in history. The victors were rarely the ones everyone expected. They were the ones no one noticed until it was too late. The ones who worked while others slept, who improved while others boasted, who stayed out of sight until their moment arrived. This is not luck. This is strategy. When people underestimate you, they leave their guard down. They reveal their weaknesses. They give you time, precious, uninterrupted time, to grow stronger without interference. The key is to never correct them. Never rush to prove yourself before you're ready. Let them think what they want. In fact, the more they doubt, the harder you should work. Not to convince them, but to ensure that when you finally reveal your hand, their shock is absolute. This is how legends are made, not by arguing with skeptics, but by making their disbelief irrelevant through sheer, undeniable achievement. There is a fire that burns in those who have been overlooked, a quiet, relentless drive that comes from knowing the world has low expectations of you, and deciding in silence to shatter every single one. That fire is your weapon. Protect it. Feed it. And when the time comes, let your results speak so loudly that no one can pretend they saw it coming. Master the art of misdirection. The world is full of people who believe they deserve to know your business, and the moment you give them real answers, you lose control. This is why the smartest minds never reveal their true plans. They master the art of saying nothing while appearing open. A smile, a vague phrase, a harmless deflection. These are the tools that keep your dreams safe from interference. When someone asks what you're working on, they rarely ask out of genuine interest. More often, it's curiosity, or worse, the desire to judge, to compare, to insert their own opinions into your path. The moment you give details, you invite unnecessary voices into your process. But when you respond with something like just figuring things out, you achieve three things. You satisfy their curiosity without giving anything real. You avoid negative energy. And most importantly, you keep your focus intact. This is not deception. It is self-defense. Every great strategist knows that information is power, and the less you give away, the more freedom you maintain. Think of it like a game of chess. The player who reveals their next move too soon loses the advantage. Your life is no different. The more mystery you preserve, the more room you have to maneuver, to adapt, to change direction without explanation. So practice the graceful sidestep, the pleasant non-answer, the cheerful deflection. Let people assume you're still figuring it out right up until the moment you've already figured it out, and by then it won't matter what they think. You'll already be miles ahead. Silence attracts opportunity. There exists a hidden law of achievement that few ever grasp. The quieter you become about your work, the more the world leans in to listen. When you stop announcing every step and start letting your actions build momentum on their own, something remarkable happens. The wrong people fade into the background while the right ones emerge from unexpected places. These are the people who recognize real work when they see it, who value substance over showmanship, who understand that true potential reveals itself in what's being built, not in what's being promised. The most valuable connections in life and business aren't made through loud declarations of intent. They're forged in the quiet spaces between words, where competence speaks for itself. When you operate with this understanding, you begin attracting a different caliber of attention, the kind that matters. Investors notice the entrepreneur who's too busy building to boast. Mentors take interest in the protege, who asks thoughtful questions rather than making empty claims. Partners are drawn to those whose track record speaks louder than their pitch. This isn't coincidence. It's the natural order of things reasserting itself in a world drowning in noise. Consider how nature operates. The deepest rivers run silent. The mightiest trees grow without fanfare. The most dangerous predators strike without warning. There's wisdom in this pattern that applies directly to human achievement. When you remove the need for constant validation, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters, the work itself. Paradoxically, this intense focus creates a magnetic effect. People sense when someone is operating at a different level, when they're playing a longer game than everyone else. This perception creates opportunities that would never come to those who broadcast their every move. History's most formidable figures understood this principle instinctively. They knew that premature exposure weakens position, that true leverage comes from letting others wonder while you work. This approach doesn't just protect your ideas, it elevates them. When you're not constantly explaining yourself, your achievements land with greater impact. When you're not seeking approval, your confidence becomes self-evident. When you're not chasing attention, it finds you in more meaningful ways. The modern world has conditioned us to believe visibility equals viability, that if we're not constantly promoting ourselves, we'll be left behind. This is perhaps the greatest deception holding ambitious people back. The reality is exactly opposite. Those who can resist the temptation to publicize their process gain an almost unfair advantage. They move unseen until they choose to be seen. They develop their craft without the distorting influence of outside opinions. They build foundations strong enough to withstand any storm because they weren't constructed for applause. There's an art to this kind of strategic silence. It's not about being secretive or withdrawn, but about understanding the power of controlled revelation. You share what's necessary when it's necessary, not before. You let your work accumulate until it can't be ignored. You become known for delivering rather than declaring. When you adopt this approach, your very silence becomes a statement, one that the most discerning observers will recognize and respect. This principle extends beyond business into every area of meaningful achievement. The artist who lets their work speak for them commands more respect than the one constantly explaining their process. The innovator who unveils a finished product generates more excitement than the one sharing half-baked ideas. The leader who acts decisively inspires more confidence than the one making endless promises. In each case, it's the discipline of silence that creates the conditions for extraordinary results. The practical application of this principle is straightforward, but requires immense discipline. When you have an idea, resist the urge to share it immediately. When you start a project, give it time to develop before seeking feedback. When you face challenges, solve them quietly, rather than turning them into public dramas. This approach does more than protect your work. It transforms how you're perceived. People begin to associate you with results rather than rhetoric, with substance rather than self-promotion. Perhaps most importantly, this practice changes how you see yourself. When you're not constantly performing for an audience, you develop a deeper, more authentic confidence, the kind that comes from knowing your worth isn't dependent on external validation. This inner certainty becomes apparent to others in subtle but powerful ways. It's in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you make decisions. These are the qualities that truly attract opportunity, because they signal someone who operates by different rules. The challenge, of course, is maintaining this discipline in a world that rewards the opposite behavior. It requires resisting countless temptations to seek quick validation, to join the noise, to measure progress by visibility rather than actual achievement. But for those who can master this approach, the rewards are immeasurable. You become the exception in a sea of mediocrity, the signal in all the noise, the one people instinctively want to associate with, because you represent something rare and valuable, the power of quiet achievement. In the end, this isn't just about attracting opportunity. It's about becoming the kind of person opportunity seeks out. When you focus on building rather than boasting, on doing rather than declaring, you enter a different category altogether. The right people notice, the meaningful connections form, the substantial opportunities arise, not because you chased them, but because your work and your silence made you impossible to ignore. This is how lasting success is built, not through clever marketing of your potential, but through undeniable demonstration of your worth. This isn't about being secretive. It's about respecting your dreams enough to not turn them into gossip. Every time you resist the urge to share prematurely, you're strengthening your discipline, your focus, and your odds of actually winning. So the next time you're tempted to announce your plans, ask yourself, is this for me or for them? The world rewards doers, not talkers. Your future self will thank you for staying silent now.